Now, we're going to take you back to on the ground in Florida all night long as we do monitor Hurricane Milton. But first, after nearly 4 years of skipping hurricane preparedness briefings, missing them, skipping them, not being there, ignoring every major storm in the country, Vice President Kamala Harris is suddenly pretending to care. And almost a full 2 weeks after the disaster caused by Hurricane Helene, let's be very clear here. Harris and Biden's response to Hurricane Helene, to this devastating hurricane, has been the absolute worst in American history. But now we're on the verge of an election, a rare sighting today. Kamala Harris actually attended a hurricane briefing, but it did not exactly go well for Kamala. She stumbled and stammered over her words while trying so hard to sound so well informed, which she's not. At one point, she even tried to talk to a staffer on a hot mic by covering her mouth like this with her hands. Take a look.
To the people of Florida, and in particular the people of the Tampa region, we urge you to take this storm seriously.
For some of these type of traditional places that could flood, we really got to watch those areas and those communities. So it takes quite a while for that water to drain.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Ken, I have a question for you. You mentioned words matter, and I know there's a lot of media following this briefing.
For almost 4 years, she never once called Governor DeSantis, not one time when there was a hurricane in the state of Florida, not once. And then she tried to politicize it this week. And well, meanwhile, Governor DeSantis was on my radio show today. He has over 50,000 people staged to follow in right after this hurricane that's going to work its way across the state tonight. Now, that awkward showing by Kamala, one of many of, her recent public appearance disasters. After barely even talking off script for months, Harris is now suddenly participating in a flurry of interviews with her friends in the state-run media mob. And we have speculated since Monday that her internal polls must be atrocious. And today, we had a little confirmation. Not exactly a conservative. Journalist Mark Halperin. Listen to what he had to say.
What's happening now with Kamala Harris is this is an experiment. Can you win a short campaign with an untested candidate? And what I'm telling you is happening in private polling is she's got a problem now, okay? It's not cheering for Trump. It's not predicting Trump will win. She's got a problem. For you Harris people on here complaining that we're talking about problems in the Harris campaign, you're welcome to put your head in the sand about it. If you want to go watch MSNBC primetime and hear how great things are going for the Harris campaign, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to understand what's actually happening, we're here to tell you. I just saw some new private polling today that's very robust private polling. She's in a lot of trouble.
Oh, I guess the joy is gone. Panic has completely set in at the Harris campaign. Even Quinnipiac polls out just today show Harris losing both Wisconsin and Michigan. She's down 4 points in Michigan in this poll. She is down 2 points in Wisconsin. She's down 2 points, we see, in Pennsylvania. A new poll out by Insider Advantage. That's Matt Towery, who will join us later in the program. And by the way, that's the most recent poll. She is massively underperforming both Biden in 2020 and Hillary in 2016. Real Clear Politics shows on this very date, October 9th, 2016, Hillary Clinton was up nearly 5 points, while on this date in 2020, Biden was up 9.7. Today, 2024, it is a 2.0-point race. That's it. Now, of course, if Kamala was a capable leader and not just a spineless, mediocre politician hiding her true beliefs, hiding from the media, hiding from the American people, and if she actually really cared about people, as she proclaims, she would have been on the ground the last 2 weeks in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and leading recovery efforts. She's been completely missing in action. She's been picking fake fights with Donald Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, in the middle of 2 deadly hurricanes, stumbling her way through a 60 Minutes interview. That turned out to be a disaster. And despite some heavy lifting from the edit department at CBS, still didn't work out well. She's also giggling, as per usual, showing up on a podcast named Call Her Daddy and talking about Raisin Bran with Howard Stern in a suit, sipping tea with the ladies of The View, and cracking a cold beer with Stephen Colbert instead of helping the people of North Carolina and Georgia. Take a look.
Elections, I think, are won on vibes because one of the old saws is they just want somebody they can have a beer with. So would you like to have a beer with me so I can tell people what that's like? Okay. This was... Now, we asked ahead of time because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You asked for Miller High Life. I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
Okay, so cheers. There
cheers.
You go. There you go. Ooh. That tastes like the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The champagne and beers.
People in states like Georgia, North Carolina abandoned, and she's giggling and yucking it up and drinking beer with Stephen Colbert. Americans in multiple states have lost everything. The entire state of Florida is getting ravaged right at this hour as we speak in my home state. As I broadcast from the Fox studios in Florida, this is the second major hurricane in this state in 2 weeks. Kamala's drinking beer on the set with Stephen Colbert, yucking it up on the Call Me Daddy podcast. The ladies with the View, a woke Howard Stern, the old Howard Stern, whatever happened to him. And she's also randomly trying out a, fake Jamaican accent on Colbert's show. What, this is supposed to be funny or something? Take a listen.
It's crude. Have empathy, man.
Yes.
For the suffering of other people. Have no sense of purpose if you purport to be a leader.
I don't know if that was the tape we called for, but empathy, she was talking about Donald Trump in that cut. Empathy, why hasn't she been in North Carolina? The audience is obviously confused. So are we not one of these, if it were not one of these cupcake interviews, they're not going to help her. These are people that already support her with dwindling audiences. Earlier in the day, the vice president telling the ladies of The View that she can't think of a single thing she would have done differently than Joe Biden. Not one. Not the borders, the economy, not the high cost of energy, not defund, dismantle police and ICE, not giving $200 billion to Ukraine and making the Iranians filthy rich. But a few hours later on Colbert, well, she couldn't come up with a single thing. Take a look.
You are a member of the president's administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of... Yes. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people.
Okay, more cliche. She wouldn't change a thing. She's no Donald Trump, I agree, because the border would be secure, the economy would rebound, and people around the world would respect us. And what's most pathetic about this ass-kissing media tour is Joe and Kamala and FEMA's horrific response across the Southeast in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Does Kamala really think her government is doing a great job? Does she agree with Joe Biden that the victims in North Carolina, Georgia, and everywhere in between are getting everything they need and everybody's happy? Because that's what Joe said last week. Listen.
What do the states in the storm zone need, Mr. President?
Okay.
What do the states in the storm zone, what do they need after what you saw today?
Oh, in the storm zone?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering what storm you're talking about. They're getting everything they need, and they're very happy across the board.
Now, we are hearing a much different story on the ground. We've had our own Sarah Carter been reporting from the hardest hit areas in North Carolina and elsewhere all week. Nobody has gotten the help that they deserve, and perhaps if they were in the country illegally, well, then they probably would be treated better, wouldn't they? Free housing, food, health care, education. Oh, let's see. Sex change operations, amnesty, legal driver's licenses, and free college. Anyway, you're not even allowed to mention any of this in any way, shape, manner, or form, or criticize the government for their horrific response, because they get very upset. They think it's not helpful. And you have these far-left media outlets like, Mediaite, MSDNC, Fake News, CNN. They actually want you to believe any criticism of Harris, Biden, FEMA is misinformation. No, it's the truth, because FEMA and the Biden and Harris administration, they got caught flat-footed. They did nothing. They had next to nothing prepositioned, knowing for days that a massive hurricane was about to hit the country. Governors like DeSantis and Kemp and McMaster, they all prepositioned state resources, people, utility trucks, supplies, manpower, all ahead of time. FEMA, Joe, Kamala, missing in action. Joe sat on his ass on the beach. Kamala was hanging out in Hollywood with her rich elitist Hollywood friends. 6 days later, Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas said, yeah, FEMA is apparently in shambles financially, and we probably don't have enough money for hurricane season. And then we discovered on FEMA's own website that the agency distributed more than $1 billion to house and feed Harris and Biden unvetted illegal immigrants, $1 billion over the last 2 years. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.